Well, that was nice timing. Right when somebody outside peeped their horn. Good afternoon, folks. We're looking at something a bit different today. But first, I'm going to express my disappointment in Croatia. They're just like everybody else. They're like Japan, Spain. Great midfield, do bugger all. Nothing up front. Gutted. Anyway, today, what we're going to do is something completely different. I'm going to hide that for now. And hey Thomas, Mr. Spock, how are you guys? Good to see you too, Mr. Spock. And as I said, we're going to do something a bit different. Now, this probably does not apply unless you are working in a team, which in itself is quite difficult in Unreal Engine, unless you basically have a good setup. But you guys can have a play with this, and I'll show you where I would use it, okay? So what we're going to do, or what I have done, have you heard about ChatGPT? Can't say I have, to be fair. Okay, a little, what do you call it? Let's have a look at our game. We've done a few things, right? So if you haven't been regular, right, we have added a compass, right? And we can shoot goats. And goats that are shot like that, because I just shot it, right? And they fall over dead, right? And then we can actually pick up the meat, okay? So that system is all working, okay? But that's not what we're going to look at today, boys and girls. We're going to look at something a bit more out there. And as I said, this is for when you want to make a tool for your colleagues who maybe aren't doing the programming, don't know exactly what to drop into a scene or how to set it up, say from a data table or stuff like that, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at a special type of widget. Okay, so if you right click, if you go to editor utilities, you'll notice there's editor utility blueprint, which we're not going to have a look at because I haven't even looked at that yet. But what we're going to look at is the editor utility widget. Yes, this game is kinda open world-ish. So, what I have done is created this editor widget. And what it is you can program it to affect the setup of your scene. Okay, so you can basically select something in your outliner and then do things with it through a widget, and I'm sure probably through an interactable object or whatever blueprint you've created, right? So let's have a look at this, shall we? What I have done is on event construct. Right, I better show you the actual widget first. Right, here's the widget, okay? And we'll actually change this to make sense, right? So we'll say, now he's going to love this, right? Even though it probably won't apply to you guys, but you can see the potential for it, and you can use it in your own way. But we are going to get a functional system here where a designer can pick something that makes sense from a interactable item, and it'll set it up for them. Okay, so let me just firstly show you how you would set up an interactable item. Okay, so say for example I wanted to create a weapon. Okay, in that instance I would have to drop in a weapon. Okay, then I would have to look at my data table and say, okay, that's a weapon, it's the sword, that's the one I want, it's number 3. Okay, and then I'd have to go back to my weapon and basically hit 3. Okay, and there's our sword. Now, under normal circumstances, right, that's probably not too dissimilar to what you guys will experience. Okay? But, for example, if you guys were basically making a game along with me, and I was doing all the programming in the back end, and you said to me, oh, how do I add an object? Where do I add it? How do I know that the data row number is? How do I know how to set it up, right? Well, this is where the widgets come in. Okay, so let's have a look. So we know that's number 3, okay? Not that that matters, because we're going to delete that, okay? And our widget is going to ask us to select an object. Okay? So what I've done in the background is I've queried our data table, I've added all the values to our selection box, and then when they select one, it actually spawns it into the world. Okay, so let's actually see it in action, and the way you can do it is, this is our widget, and what we do is we right click and click run, and you can see here that we've got a drop down with all our different things in it. So if we select sword, bang, there it is. Okay? How cool is that? And it sets it all up for us, does all its thing, and there we go. Okay, so this is a bit of a cheat, and I'll show you why. Now, this is dockable or not, so you can basically have it on a tab here or wherever you like. So the designer can just basically add this here, and this is going to be his tab for adding new items into the world. Okay, but the next thing we're going to do with this, right, is we're going to expand on it slightly. And we can do that. And this is going to be another, this is basically going to be a tutorial on data tables. Okay. So what we can do is we can open this up. And we are going to create another one of these horizontal boxes, okay? So we're going to duplicate that, okay? And we're going to change this to not the object, right? But we're going to say item type, okay? We're still going to have our select object, right? But if you noticed in our data table, each of our items has an item type, okay? So, to show you what it's based on, we're going to open this up. We're going to have a look at our, we could have a look at the enumerator and just basically roll around the enumerator. But in this case, we really only want to bring back the things that are actually there. And you can see from here that we've got an item type, okay? And this is an actual enumerator, okay? So, what we're going to do is we're going to go back. Well, first thing we're going to do is name these a bit better so that we understand which one is which. And we'll call this CBO for combo box, or in fact CBX underscore item type, okay? And then for our, we'll call this CBX underscore item, okay? So this is just your standard widget, the way you set it up, right? There's nothing special about the way you set up this widget. You just set it up as you would do a normal widget in your game, right? Except it's going to be more of a case of a selection system, right? Stuff like that, right? But the theory is the same as far as the widget design goes. So what we'll do now is we'll reprogram it, okay? And instead of pulling for the data table, we're not going to delete this because we're going to need it, right? And we might need this later. And I'll explain that when we come to do it. Right? But we're going to do CBX item type, right? And the first thing we're going to do is clear it. Clear options. And we're not going to pull it from we're not going to pull it for a data table, right? What we're going to do is we're going to get our item type. Okay, we're not going to do that either. And this one always kind of gets me actually. Right, we'll say item type. Right, and this is going to be enum item type. Interactable type. Okay. Interactable. That's what we want to do. Right. Now, is that a byte? No, it's an enum. That's fine. Right. So I'm guessing that's the for each. Right. And basically we just say add option. Okay. We loop the body. And we put the option there. Okay. And then we do that. Okay. Oh, we need our item type. So we're going to get that, and that's going to go in there. So now this is going to look a bit different, especially if you don't run the right thing. It's going to look really different. Right, so what we can do is run this widget, and you'll notice now we have our two drop downs, and this one has our different item types. Okay. So the idea here is that your designer will come in and he'll say, well, I want this item type. How do I find it? Well, I want a weapon, right? And then what we want is when this changes, we want to update the object, right? But we only want it from our object type of weapon. Okay? So, what we can do is we can go to our, not do that, right? On our item type, we can view. Now that isn't actually the item type. That is the item. So I've basically renamed the wrong one. Right? But we can fix this in a minute. So we can save that. I'm just going to check actually. Right, so this one should be CBX item type. Right, it is. And that's the one we renamed. And then we've got CBX item. So that's fine as well. Right? So, if we go to here, we're going to view, but it's actually this one. That's okay. Right, I'm getting myself confused here. So if the item type changes, right, we're not going to do that. Right, and we're not actually going to do this either. We're going to do something a little different. Actually, this is going to go down to here. Okay. And we're going to do this part. Right. But we're going to do this in the item type. So when the item type changes, we're going to refresh our other combo box with the correct thing. Right? So this combo box, we're going to get it. Then we're going to clear first. Right? And this is actually becoming a bit more like, what do we call it? Visual Basic programming, doing all the combo boxes. Normally you do this off a database rather than a data table, but the concept is pretty much the same, except Visual Basic had a couple of handy helpy things that you could use. Right, so now we're going to get this and we're going to add an option. Okay, once I set this up, I'll explain it, what this is doing. Right, so the thing here is, when we change the item type, we clear the items, then we get basically the items, loop round every single item, and if it is that item type, then we add it to the items combo box, the second one. Okay, so in reality, if this is working, it should look like this. Run widget. Right, so we can pick a weapon and nothing. Awesome. So we're getting our options. Now, I'm just wondering what this is. Now, there is a couple of weird things going on. Right, so that's clear item, interactable, interactable. We're getting the item type. Oh, this is item name. Right, so that's a load of rubbish. So that should actually go there. And we'll drag that out there. Right, so that should work now, in theory. Oh, wait a minute. And we should be getting that to there. Okay, that's a bit better, I think. And obviously I'm not used to pressing play and not run editor widget. Right, so if we click on weapon, we're getting nothing. If we pick on clothing, we're getting nothing. So that's awesome. Okay. So what we'll do is we will forgo this and just go straight in, okay, just to test. We will run that. This is going to make no difference what one I pick, right? Because this should be full. Yeah, it is. Okay. So, it's this branch that's killing us. Okay. So, and pretty much know if I go to string, right, it's going to give us the friendly name, which is the actual name that we're using in the drop down, right? Before that was just going to give us a byte, right, rather than the actual string value of the enumerator. And I've done it again. Please stop doing that. Right, so hopefully this time there's a sword. Okay, there's only one sword. If we do clothing, we get a shield. Obviously that's wrong because we're mucking about with certain settings, but anyway, we get dry wood. Okay, deer meat. Water, we get water. Other, we can pick a bed, door, blah blah blah. Okay, static, we can do a brazier. It's actually a brazier, but anyway. So there we go. Now, have I actually created stuff here accidentally? Apparently not. Right. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you look in here, we've got 38 actors, okay? And we want to create a new one, okay? But, and here's the but, right? We don't want it to be created on a change, right? What we want to do is we want to select our item, right? And then we want a button that basically says create my item, okay? Right? Now, the other thing is we could obviously create something like our little mouse over widget that we did the other day, right? That tells us everything about the object, shows us a little picture, blah de blah de blah. Right? So what we'll do here is we shall say create, okay? Then we'll change it. I mean, we can make this even, you know, game themed the same if we wanted to. Right? Now, here's the twist. We need to go in here. We need a variable, and we're going to call it row number. Okay? And And this is actually going to be a name, because row numbers are actually stored as names. Okay. Now, on this selection, I'm going to move this down. I'm going to explain this bit in a minute, right? I'm going to move this down. Okay. And we're going to need this item type, right? So this is actually good. We're going to need that, okay? So what I'm going to do is, when you've selected an option from the first one, right, we're going to set this. If it's true. Now it's going to do this more than once, but that's fine. I don't care. Right? Because it will just basically set it to the same thing again, which is fine by me. Okay? Now, our next one, when we do the selection, we're going to get our row number and set it. Okay, and we're going to come off of here and we're going to set this number here. Okay, you'll notice the row number actually is a name. Right, now we're going to use this, or at least this code here, and some of this, okay? But we shall do this again when we need it. And as I said, I shall explain this part in a minute. So this is going to go in a different section, and it's actually when this button is clicked. Okay. And we'll quickly go back to the designer, right, and we shall call it button create. I don't think we need it as a variable, but anyway, right, so that's us there. We're going to go back to our graph. Now, we have our item type and our row number, okay? So, when they click that button, we're going to get data table row, okay? Okay, normally in the normal editor, that would be the final, basically the bottom one, right? And now we can select our interactable items and we can plug in our row number here. Okay? Now we can pull off and break our interactable item. We can get the item type and just as an example here, if it's a weapon, we create a weapon. Okay? We delete that. And what we do is we grab the row number. Damn it. Well, actually, we can do it from here if we want, right? Well, let's just follow this through properly, okay? What we can do is we can grab this row, right? Add a reroute node. Then we can break it. We can get a row number, plug it in. Then we can actually just plug the item data straight in here. Okay? So what that does is it spawns the actor from an object, right? Hey passer, how you doing? Then it casts it to an interactable item. Then it sets the row number and it sets the item data. Okay? So to bring that into reality of what's going on here, again, I'll show you me bringing in, let's say, a weapon, right? If I go weapon, you'll notice here, this is the DT row number that we were setting, okay? And this is the item data that we were setting. Okay, you'll notice that I would have to set this manually, okay? So, if I delete that out, you'll notice we have 38 actors and we have no weapons, okay? So, if I go to my helper, then I run it, I can say I want to create a weapon and it's going to be the sword. Then I press create and there it's not there. You see that? That's fantastic, isn't it? Right? So we need to work out what's going on because that didn't work. And it's because we're an idiot, okay? So we're getting our row and we don't need to do that. Okay? And that was the problem. So I'll minimize that. I'm going to run our widget again. We're going to select, I don't need the row number. I'm pulling it from the data table when we select an object. Right? So we've selected weapon, sword, create. And it's still not working. Okay. Okay. What have I done wrong? We're getting a row number from a data table. right? We're setting our row number here. We don't need them. We don't. Ah, we do need to set this though. Right, okay. Equals that. This is going to go along a bit. This is going to branch. So what I wasn't doing there was setting up the row number correctly, because I wasn't checking what the row number was called, or the item was called, when I actually selected an item. Okay? So, in theory, again, there's a lot of this in theory is not working, but anyway. Select that, whim, select sort, create, and there it is. And there's a sword. Okay. Now, there's another little thing we can do here. You'll notice this red line thing, right? And this is me tracing here. I'll show you. This is me firing out line traces and where we're hitting. Okay? So, what I actually want to be able to do here is, now this is beginning to go a bit bonkers, but we'll try it anyway. On mouse button down. You done what before for interactables? Oh, overrides. We say is mouse button down, get mouse, right mouse button, save that, don't worry about that. What we're going to do is make event reply. Right, we're going to branch this. We're going to do this. Right, we're going to go back to our designer Sorry, that's the wrong place. Oh yeah, line trace is used quite a lot. Right, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a custom event, and we're going to say place with mouse. That'll do, place with mouse. Okay, so we don't actually need to hit that button. Okay, so we're getting the right mouse button down. If the right mouse button is pressed down, we're basically going to say place with mouse. Okay, how cool is that? Not quite cool enough yet for my liking. Right, and we've got our line trace here. Yeah, I've done that before. If you're facing, you can do it as if you're facing an object or whatever, you can use it like that. What we're going to do is we're going to get our line trace again, right? And then we are going to break the hit result and our location is going to go in there. Right, now I would normally turn this into some kind of a function because we're going to use it in multiple places, but whatever. This is going to be our sort of marker, and we'll just copy the code out so that it gives us exactly the same thing. As I said, I would end up turning this into a function. Okay, so in theory, if I've done this right, we're doing the weapon, right? I've only connected up the weapon there, right? So I'm going to minimize that. I'm going to run it. Wait a minute. I'm going to delete that. Right, and then we're going to have to do weapon, then sword, and now if I right click, add that, right, I might have to use the middle button because I'm taking it the right button is eating up our input. Right, so I'm going to go mouse, middle button, and let's see if that works. I've got no idea if this is going to work, by the way. This is me just basically trying things. Right, so we do weapon, sword, we can drag that about and apparently it's not doing it. Well, that's a bummer. Well, actually, you know what? That's fine. Sod you. Right? Because what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do something different, right? I'm going to do something different because you're just not going to bloody work. Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another variable, right? And I'm going to say LT vector. So that's line trace vector, right? And it's going to be vector, right? We're going to delete this. We're going to plug that back in there. We're going to come to here, then on out hit. We're going to break the result. We're going to do that. Then we're going to set our LT vector to our new location. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. And then in our weapon, we're going to get our LT vector and plug it into location. Save that. Right. And then we're going to run our utility. Then we're going to see weapon, sword. Right. So we can say we want there. And we hit create. Bang. Voila. How's about that then, folks? Okay. And then obviously you can adjust it, which we could do in here. Right? And that works rather sweetly. So now we could do water, right? Water, right? Then we could pick a place there. Create. Ah, I didn't do that, that's right. Okay, that's because we didn't hook up the water, because I'm an idiot. Right? But fundamentally, it's as simple as that. And the interesting thing here is we actually did create the water, I think. Yeah, there it's there, drink 2. Okay. You'll notice we're up to 39 actors now. Right, so what was the other one? It was BP weapon, wasn't it? Yeah, that's it there. Right, so that's it back to our original. So now what we can do is we can actually run it, right? But we can pop it onto here. Now obviously we'd design our widget to go in the content browser, right? So we'd actually have it going like left to right rather than up and down. But hey ho, not to worry. So we can go weapon, sword, get our position, we want it there, create. We want our drink, water, create. Okay, and then we can move them. There is actually a mug there somewhere. Oh, actually, I didn't set that. Oh yeah, that's because I didn't. That's because I'm an idiot, right? So just ignore me on this one. We're going to delete that again. We're going to delete that. We can open that up and you'll notice that these aren't set up. Right? So basically, I just need a reroute node here. Okay. So that goes to there. Hi, pretty Mooby, how are you? So we just break the struct and get that, drag that up, and now we should be able to create the two of them, right? So we didn't want to press that. As I said, guys, if you're doing a game yourself, unless you need some kind of tool like this to help you, it's going to be of limited value. Where it comes into play is when you've got someone else who's not familiar with the structures of your data and your blueprints, and you want to give them a very, very simple way of getting an item into the world in the correct, you know, the correct class, the correct settings, everything's right, okay? And that's where this comes into its own, right? So once again, we should be able to do both this time. So we can say weapon, sword, right? We should be able to select our point, going to be right there, create. Okay? Then we should be able to go over here. Then we should be able to go water. Should actually be called drink, I suppose. Water, create. Okay? As you can see, we've got our sword there, and I'm hoping, right, that there we have our mug. Okay? Now, I've not went this far yet, but you can actually create assets this way. Okay? You can actually create brand new assets. Okay? Based on, let's say, a BP drink, and if you wanted to create a child of that, you can do things like that. But yeah, as I said, I can't really display it as well as I would like because I don't have enough items in the data table, right? If I had a load of items, it would be a lot easier to do, or at least a lot easier to show. right? Now, this is it here, right? Now, once you think of all the items that you might have in your game, this list might go to hundreds, okay? Now, at the moment, I've not got hundreds, right? But anyway. But what we can do is we can change this to drink to make it more sort of user friendly. Right, and we're going to browse to there, and what we'll do is run it again, and you'll notice that now we'll be able to, it's not water, it's drink, and then it brings up the water. Right, and we can basically place these wherever we like. Okay. Now, we're going to do one more thing when we come back, because you'll notice, right, when I do this, press create, it's not the selected item. We want it to automatically, for that to become the selected item, right, so that it's going to have our gizmo ready for us. Okay, so we're going to do that when we come back. So if you're enjoying the stream, hit like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and check out the description for Discord and Patreon links and my previous game, and I shall be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere, folks. Okay guys, we're back and let's get this set up. So, we're going to close down our widget, then we're going to edit it, and then we're going to say set selected actors. We might actually able to just set selected, set selected, and it's in here. Right, so it's this one here. So obviously you can set more than one. Okay. And then this is going to be make array. Right, and basically I believe we should be able to put that in there, right? And we should be able to copy it to here. Now, because I don't, I'm actually prototyping right now. I've never used these editor widgets before, and I'm just learning about them. I am basically spitballing it here. Right, so if I go like that, and then like that, let's try it, shall we? Let's hit the right button for a change. Right, so we're going to say weapon, sword, create, and you'll notice now it is selected. Right, this was from previous, I believe. Yeah, drink 2. Right, so if we go drink and water and create, and it's selected. And there you go. Right, and that is bleeding awesome. Now you can do all sorts with this, right? Because you can select, just like right, I'm going to close this down and I'm going to explain this, right? Just like I selected the level actors, you could select every single actor of a certain type and then get it to do things to every single actor of that type, right? So rather than having to say you've got like a large like my previous game where you've got all those different basically assets that are the same size, right? And you've got them all off by 10. Okay? Rather than having to go through every single one and click it to like select it, you could get your programmer to make a tool like this that selects any type of actor in your scene, right? It's really, it's going to be game dependent, right? Where you're going to find things that are really tedious to do, right? And you're basically going to say, well, I could really be doing with a tool that does like this, which is just like what I'm doing at the moment, right? And it's just exactly the same process as, you know, writing a normal blueprint and creating a normal widget, okay? Now, some of the stuff is different. For anybody that's watching that's using Unreal Engine 5, it is slightly different, right? You do what's called get subsystems, and there's like a subsystem for actors that you basically, when you're trying to find like a selected actor or something, right, you will basically get the subsystem and then use that subsystem. There's a pin off it and you'll say get actor, selected actor or something, right? But that's probably where the only major difference is. I'm not sure because I've not seen it. I've not seen enough of it. But anyway. So, anybody any questions or want me to do something that's going to be cool? Now, I'm pretty sure, right, like what you could do rather than having to, like, see all these assets here, right? Let's say under models, right? I'm pretty sure you could create a widget that just shows you like all the meshes from each of these, right? No, you can't. It's a survival game, not a treasure hunt. Right, but back on point, thanks for the question, Mr. Spock, or suggestion, but I don't think that's going to happen. The treasure that you're going to find is 1. Fuel to light fires. 2. Food to keep yourself healthy. 3. Drink to keep yourself healthy. And 4 is probably a bed where you can rest, and it'll probably make you rest better. But that's a story for another day. So what I was thinking was, rather than having to search through these all the time, not knowing where certain things are, you can probably set up a helper widget that basically shows you all the meshes in all these different folders. Okay? Now, I did see that kind of somewhere before when I was mucking about with this earlier. Because basically you can say create object, or sorry, construct object from class, right? And when you basically select something here, I've not quite understood what these are yet, this class and outer is. I don't know. But the other thing is you can create an asset, right? I don't know if there's going to be crafting or not. The whole point here, Mr. Spock, is you can put in all of these systems, right? You can put in a crafting system, you can put in a treasure hunting system, you can put in a whatever system you want, but does it make any sense? And is it actually going to make the game better? Right? Is it going to make the game better? And the answer to that is not necessarily. I don't know what. Oh, this is interesting. Now, this is the way I learn, right? I start looking at interesting things like create asset data, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Okay. So what we do is we get a blueprint that we know. So let's say BP drink, right? And then it's going to give us an asset data structure. And look at that. This is where this gets interesting, because it's object path, package name, package path, asset name, and asset class. Right now, I don't know what any of them mean at this point, but it sparks my interest. Right? So now, this object path, the object path of the asset in the form package name, asset name. Only top level object in a package can have asset data. Okay. So now we're going to be looking, let's say, for a path. Okay. So there's get virtual path, get path name for loaded asset. Okay. Now this is going to be interesting, because what I'm going to do here, right, is I want to know what this brings back, and this begins to give me a clue to how to actually get round about the directory system. Okay, so if I go to designer, right, and I add a text box to here, right, in this canvas panel, we're actually going to do that and do that, right, and I'm going to set this now, right, so we're going to call this txt path is a variable, compile Yeah, that is kind of in mind. Right? So what we're going to do is we're going to say text path, right? And we're going to set text what? Wait a minute. Yeah. Where's set text? Should be that. Don't know why that wasn't coming up. Maybe I'd set it to context, not context or something. No, you're not going to be building anything. Nope, not going to happen. You see, you're doing it. You're doing exactly what I just said, right? You're adding gameplay feature after gameplay feature. Where does it stop? Right? Yes, you could add these, right? But that's not what the game is. If I set that as a... What? Yes, there's going to be stuff provided, right? But it's not going to be... You're not going to build buildings, right? It isn't Fortnite. Right? There will be buildings that you can go in to heat up, but you're not going to build them. Right, so it's text path 2, right, and it is a variable. Now we managed to set a canvas panel to a variable, which doesn't really matter, but anyway. Right, so this is going in there, and this is going in here. Right, so when we create, right, and we don't do that, okay, so run that widget, and you'll notice now all the stuff's over here, so it's a bit easier. So weapon, sword, and create, and there is our path. No, other games, other survival games don't have it, because they're not survival games, they're building games. Right. So as you see, when you create it, in actual fact, what we really want is the selected item name, right? But that gives us an idea of what this is. Okay. But really what we want to do is we shall delete that for now. Right. And we'll put that straight into the... Oh. So what we could do here, if you didn't know, is get display name. Right. So we could have actually just did that and plugged that back in. But yeah. So we'll save that. Right. We'll create our weapon, sword. Create. And you'll notice it's called BP weapon. Right. Now, if I do that again, create, it's now BP weapon 2. So we know which one we're dealing with. It's selected here and it gives us the name here. Okay. And yeah. But there, guys, is a quick introduction to editor widgets. Okay. And that is how it's done. So if anybody's got any more questions, what we could actually, you know what we could do? We could beautify it a bit, I suppose. Right, we could wrap this with a border. Right, and then we could, I mean, we could theme it exactly like we've got our game, right? So we could go back to our content browser. I won't be checking out Ark Survival, I'm afraid. Hi, Gull McLego. Just because it's got survival in the title doesn't make it a survival game, by the way. And I would actually class different types of survival games. There's survival games where you predominantly build, and then there's survival games where the object is to survive. They are kind of different. I mean, you could call Factorio a survival game because you need to basically survive the hordes of aliens. So you could call that a survival game if you want. But, yeah. So, in our border, isn't right. Because that border should be round the vertical box. Right? If you look at the vertical box, right, that's weird. Right, okay. We're going to remove that border. Right, and then this border, what we're going to do, we're going to wrap that with border. Right, there's something seriously weird going on here. Maybe it actually looks different. No, you see it doesn't. I'm going to close that, right? And then I'm going to open it again because that's weird. Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? It's as if this canvas panel isn't really a canvas panel at all. This border, right? And we'll do that. Right? But that canvas panel shouldn't be that size. Right? Ah, wait a minute. Okay, whatever. Don't really care. What we can do is move that along a bit and then basically move it down a wee bit. Compile that. And you can see here that we can actually set this up. Well, I mean, you could call a first-person shooter a survival game because you need to survive getting shot. As I said, you can basically call it what you want. It doesn't really matter. It's just what mechanics you're going to have in it. And you tend to find that thrown far too... And this is the thing that indie developers tend to do, by the way, is they try to throw every single mechanic that they've ever seen in any game into their game, which is a huge mistake, right? Because number one, it gets far too complicated and it just actually doesn't really add anything to the game. In fact, it takes stuff away, right? You should have a series of certain mechanics that are the basis for your game, okay? And that might just be one or two mechanics, right? Like, for example, you might just have the survival thing plus a bit of crafting, right? But you basically thrash them out as good as you can, right? So that basically, you know, it's a good crafting system and it makes sense, okay? The problem with doing a crafting system and a building system and a survival system is your level design has to then fit with all the mechanics, okay? Because if you build your world, for example, let's say it's a survival game like I'm making here, right? If you can build anywhere, right, then what's the point of traveling or trying to make it to the next village, right? Because basically what you can do is you can half the distance that you need to travel, right? Now, if you've designed the game that they will need to like stock up on food, stock up on wood, stock up on this, that and the other, right? Just to make it to the next town, right? If you add a building system, you've completely destroyed that, right? Because all the player needs to do is get halfway, build a house, job's a good one. Right? You have to be very careful when designing these things and thinking of adding mechanics, because the mechanics that you add, there's a decent possibility they're going to destroy any level design you've done, right? Because your level design no longer supports the mechanics. Okay? Now, it also doesn't make an awful lot of sense for one person, right, which this game is, you're one person, right, who goes out into the wilderness, who has nothing, and suddenly starts building stuff, right? In minus 20 degree temperatures, right? That doesn't happen, right? So there's got to be some logic to what you're, well, for me anyway, right? Not saying for everybody, because obviously these games exist where you can go out and do mental things, right? But for me, it's got to make some kind of sense, right? So you ain't going to be making a log cabin as a Viking in Greenland. Ain't going to happen on your own, okay? So that for me is why I don't think it kind of fits with what I'm doing, or what we're doing. Where's... Yeah, I think if you use in these menus, I can't remember. There's the text colors, but you'll notice, well, there is a font. So we'll add that font and we'll see what it does. We'll do the same with this one, right? as I said, this has been a little bit of a detour. So yeah, see, that looks awful in a drop down, right? So we definitely don't want that. And I think the nice one here was that open sans regular. I'll copy that, right? And then we'll paste that. And this is a nice clear font. Okay. So what we should do here is, with our horizontal boxes, right, what we should really do is we should probably set them to a certain size, right? So if that was the case, right, what I would probably do here is this, either this vertical box, we could say 250, except it's going to be more than that, so we'll say 500, right? And then for our horizontal boxes, we could just basically say 50-50. So we could say 50, and this one 50. Okay, and then we could basically do the same for the other ones. So if I select, well, we've done that one, so we could say fill and then 50, and that gives us our thing, right? So if we compile that, you can see now we can select here, well, let's do that, and that gives us our sword, right? Da. And that looks good. And as I said, the thing that we want to do probably is put an image here, and then when you select the object, it basically gives you the item details, right? And that would work well. But in the meantime, probably what we want to do is add primitive and spacer. I mean, we could pad it, I suppose. We could pad this, right? We could just pad the top. Well, we could pad the top and the bottom actually. So we'll say 15 top, and we'll say 15 bottom, right? And as you see now, that's beginning to look okay. We can delete that, and we can delete that. And from a design point of view, this is probably in a bad place, right? Because obviously these are drop downs, right? So basically, if I click on that, I'm very close to clicking on the create, right? Which is bad. So we'd either move it to here or move it. I mean, there isn't a good way to do this apart from to actually put it above. Okay. It's either going to have to be above or to the side. But yeah. So guys, if you've enjoyed this stream, have a play about with editor widgets yourself. Use what I started with. And you can create your own helper widgets that create objects, do whatever you want inside your editor. Okay? And I think we'll call it there. So guys, thanks very much for watching. Again, if you've enjoyed the stream, hit like and subscribe. Check out the description for link to the Discord. If you want to support the channel and the game, there's Patreon there. And also, you can also help by adding my previous game, the link in the description, to your wish list in Steam. And that doesn't cost you a penny. So, once again, thanks for watching. I'll catch you later, 8 PM Central. I'll be back, and we'll probably not be doing any more with the editor widgets. That was just a little sidetracked fun bonus. We'll be back to the game, and I shall see you all later. Bye bye for now.